in 4 parts, and anybody can play any of those 4 parts because I compress the parts. So there's if it's only flutes on a given day, they can play all 4 parts. If it's only trombones on another day, they can play all those 4 parts, down an octave or maybe 2, but they can play them. If it's a mixture, a flute, a clarinet, a trombone, a marimba, and I don't know, a bassoon shows up, they can play all 4 parts. You can assign the parts. So it became more flexible in that regard. So that's sort of how that works. There should be the name of our, yeah, there's our collective right there. You see the composers there. Robert, John Mackey, Brian Balmages, Peter Meekin, Steve Bryant, Alex Shapiro, Mike Doherty, myself, Julie Giroux, Omar Thomas, Jen Jolly, and Eric Whitaker. So it's a wonderful group of colleagues and every one of them have created adaptable pieces or are in the process of finishing pieces, or both. Some have created some and they're still working on others. So they've been great in that regard in creating. As I mentioned, we also are advocating. So we have this Facebook group here where people can just come in and dump their stuff in. Here's something here. Gio Santos, he's a good friend. He's got his latest piece. So anybody, they can put in their adaptable pieces from all over the world. People can put them in and share them. So you can see these sort of, see what's going on. So it's been a wonderful thing, this Facebook group. I think I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. Actually, no, I won't. Yeah, I'll stop sharing and just talk to you guys for a moment. So that's a little bit about our website and a little bit about what we've done and what we're doing. I thought I would share examples of my own music that represent a couple of those and then take your questions. So I'm going to share one of my works that represents a full flex. That is the fully adaptable kind of piece. So let me just pull that up and then I will share that. That is, I got to move you guys out of the way. Excuse me, guys, I'm moving you. There they are. And I'm going to pull up. This is something I sent to you, Dan. So they have this, right?
Yes, they do.
4 files. You guys already have this, the PDF and the MP3. I'm going to share.
Just to be clear with them, it's in the link that I posted in the chat.
Okay.
They just hit the button, and we've got tutorial template, score sample excerpt, dance from 4 shaker songs, and in C Dorian, preface and B flat part.
That's great. So I am going to share this file and pull these up if I can. If I can figure out how to drag it. I guess I can. All right. So here's the PDF. Yeah. And you can kind of see, I hope you guys can see this. I don't know how large it is on your screen, but you can see an example. Here's the template I use, sort of. This is a template for maybe younger musicians. So you see here.
Right, we're seeing an iTunes page
right
now.
You're not seeing my, dang it.
We're not seeing a PDF.
I'm not sure what to share. I'm trying to share a PDF file. Let me try it again. There. That should do it, if I can make that blue. You see it now?
Yes.
Cool. So this is the template here. You can see the 4 flute parts at the top and oboe. Those are C instruments in treble clef. I've got my B flat instruments in treble clef. So my clarinets and my trumpet and my tenor sax and my bass clarinet, they would all get these parts. There would be 4 parts for all of those instruments, and et cetera. So that's how the template works. And you see the ranges here. And these, as you can see, these are pretty, what would you say? That's like a grade 3 range, right? Trumpet up to about an F, maybe a good grade 2 player, something like that. That's sort of the ranges. The ranges would extend if I were doing a more difficult work. And there you can see the low brass, like the trombones up to an E flat, the bassoons, and all of those. The tubas are going to be an octave lower. They're not on the score. And it says right here, bassoons, low brass. This is an old version. It also says tubas an octave lower as well. Anyhow, I'm going to play for you this example right here. And you all see that this is the second movement of my Simple Gifts. It's called Dance. And it's just an excerpt. I'm going to play the MP3. And I can hear someone typing, but here we go. Here's the MP3. Let's see if we got some sound here. Oh, shoot. What's it doing now? What? Let me try this again. As I said, what happened is I just got my computer out of this. I just got my computer out of the shop. And so
Frank,
I'm still in
I'm
this.
pretty sure I have all of this on my computer and I could share.
You know, that'd be great. If I don't have, I'm going to try one more time and see if it lets me play my iTunes. And if it doesn't,
Well, and we have the audio excerpts on the website too.
yeah, and this is why I sent it. If someone else can just share their screen and play it, because I'm in this limbo, so I'm not able to play it.
If you want to exit the share screen,
Yes, sir.
I can probably play.
All right.
Let me see.
Yeah, just
here.
pull it up and play it, and you'll have to turn the pages. Yeah.
The audio example of
It's
Dan?
1A, 1B. Pull up 1A, just pull up the PDF, and then play. Yep. That's it. But stop. So now
Okay.
pull up the score and share your screen and share your sounds.
Okay.
You know where to share you share the sounds in the left corner there, Dan? You know about that, right?
I'm pulling up the score.
Right. But
No.
on the share, when you get to share, you'll have to say hit share sounds.
Okay. So there's that. Share screen.
And then in left corner, share sound. Computer sound.
Share computer sound.
Click that box. Now share the PDF.
Okay.
Hit play.
Everybody see the PDF?
Groovy. And this is just imagining only clarinets. Yeah, so get off the PDF and go back to the score. Turn the page. And now leave that page there, Dan. I just want them to see. Scroll it up a little bit. There we are. So I just want you to see. So the entire piece, I took my whole piece, the band version. I don't know how many of you know this, the band version of Shaker songs. This is the second movement. I took the whole piece, and as I said, I compressed the ranges into 4 parts that are pretty tight, and I put them there. The first thing I did is I put them into those 4 staves where the B-flat instruments are. That is the trumpets, clarinets. That's that second set of 4 staves. It's the whole piece is there, sort of, right? It's not really SATB anymore. It's like SSAA, right? It's SSAA because it's clarinet trumpet range. But you look down, now look down, scroll down to the trombones, just an example. That's the low brass down there. You see they're doing the same thing. They're just doing it an octave lower, but it's the same parts. And so now if one clarinet, one trombone, one sax, one horn shows up, they can play the piece, because you can assign them part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. Or if only the horns are present on a given day, the horns can play the whole piece. It's right there in the horns. So that's why I did this, because I was anticipating that you guys have no idea who's going to be able to show up in your rehearsal room on a given day because of schedules and so forth. You just don't know. Maybe only 6 kids can show up. Maybe you've got it worked out where you have it by sectionals. I wanted to adapt the music so that it would work no matter what you're faced with. That's sort of my solution to this. How useful this will be in the fall is only going to be determined when we get to the fall and see what's going on. So that's sort of how it works there. There's one other piece, and that is my in C Dorian. Could you do the same thing with that one, Dan? This is an example of a, yeah. So here's an example of just a page, all the parts, instruments in B flat, treble clef instruments in B flat. Whoops. Yeah.
Just got to get to the audio.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's the other audio, 2B, I think it's.
Yeah. There we go. There it is.
Thank you so much, Dan.
No problem.
And then you'll hit pause. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, no, here.
There
Okay.
it is. Yeah, so this is a whole different kind of adaptable piece here. This is modeled after Terry Riley's groundbreaking work in C. I mean, how many of you know that? Probably a lot of you. Raise your hands. I don't say, not all of you. Yeah, so in C, really cool. What it does, it's based on cells. You see cells not unlike this, and players can go from one cell to another at will. They can repeat a cell. In Riley's piece, they can repeat it as many times as they want. In mine, I restrict you to 1 to 6 times. Then you can go on to the next cell, or you can skip around. You can skip from cell 1 to cell 4, go back to do cell 2, and so forth. So it's very free, and there are 3 pages of this. I have parts for all the instruments in B flat. I have this exact same stuff, but transposed for instruments in C, so that's flutes and oboes. I've got it for bass clef instruments in C, the trombones and bassoons, etc. And I've got it for instruments in E flat, the saxophones. I've got it for instruments in F, the horn. So there are parts. There's just that many parts, not so many parts. I think, what is that, like 6 parts. And so then the players take this and then they just go. Maybe a conductor can be in front of them giving the pulse, or maybe it's a click track in their headphones if they're doing it virtually, which is what Robert is going to be doing, right? Robert, you're doing this with the National Chamber Winds. Robert is generously offering to record some of our adaptable works with the National Chamber Winds. And Robert, do you want to say anything about that?
Sure, only that we're recording 5 of the pieces virtually. Everyone's going to record in their own home, and then we're going to create videos and audios from that. So,
and can you remember some of the composers you're recording?
Sure, yeah, I remember all of them. We'll do a duet by Steve Bryant. We'll do Frank's In C Dorian, Alex Shapiro's Passages, Julie Giroux's Time to Dance, and Pete Meekin's Taking the Fifth. Those are the pieces.
Really wonderful that you're doing that.
Well, there's a quick pause there. I hate to interrupt. I hate to interrupt, Frank. Folks, would everybody please check to make sure you're muted? I think in particular, we might have one person in the car that needs to take a quick check. We're getting a bit of feedback. Everybody, if you check to make sure you're muted, that'd be great.
Cool. Yeah, I heard that too. Yeah. So if you will go back to page 1 and hit play. We'll just play a couple of minutes because this is like a 6-minute. You don't need to hear the whole thing. We'll play a couple of minutes. You know, I'll play until we get to page 2 and then we can stop. So that's like 2 minutes worth. So I'm imagining sax. Yeah, go ahead. I'll talk over it. I'm imagining saxophone, oboe, bassoon, marimba, clarinet. Okay, Dan, scroll down.
Trying to multitask badly.
Well, not that far. Right there. Okay. So you get the idea of that. It's very, very boppy piece. It's just kind of bops along and kind of minimalistic quality about it with those occasional lyrical melodies in there to break up the boppiness. And it builds and builds. You see in the last page, it's gradually getting louder and louder. I think I have a final dynamic at the bottom of that page. Yeah, so the whole thing's going to end in this big loud thing. And at some point, somebody's got to cut it off. The conductor has just got to cut it off on the end of 4, or one of the players or somebody, because people are going to be all over the place. And my idea is by the time somebody gets to cell number 28, then somebody's got to start figuring out how to cut the thing off. And it should be just this joyous, jubilant kind of ending that it all builds to. So this is an example of cellular modular. Again, the adaptables, we have 4 different kinds of adaptables. Flex, like the Hal Leonard or the Japanese Flex. Some of you may know about Japanese Flex as well. They've been doing it for years. The Bravo Music and their parent company, Brain Music, because of the declining population in Japan, their band programs are suffering from incomplete instrumentation now. They're having fewer and fewer kids in the band programs, especially in rural areas of Japan. So they have needed this as well. So anyway, so they have their Flex, Japanese Flex, and Hal Leonard's Flex series. So that's Flex. And then the full Flex is my little thing that I kind of invented. And then there's the cellular, which you just heard, a cellular modular. And then finally, there's improvisatory. We put that category because of Omar Thomas. He's been doing improvisatory, a thing called Sharp 9. It's a jazz piece that involves improvisation, but for young kids. It's like a grade 1 or grade 2. I forget, Robert. It's a grade 1 or grade 2 piece that incorporates jazz. That kids have to learn how to improvise to the blues. And so that's the 4th kind. And these also could involve electronics. Any of these 4 types could involve electronics. So, so there are all kinds of other side possibilities to these 4 basic subcategories that we're all, and now getting to how do you get this music? For those of you who want to know how to get it, well, we are not a clearinghouse. You can't go to the CRI website and buy the music. We didn't want to do that. We didn't want to sort of make it about us, and we thought we'd run the risk of dominating the market or being seen as dominating the market because, the composers who are members of this are leaders in the field. We were sensitive to that. We thought, let's not do that. So instead, you get the music the same way you get any of your music. You go to your favorite publishers, you look up your favorite composers, you see if they've got adaptable music. You do it in the traditional way. So you could go to the big publishers, you go to the small publishers, you go to the agents representing those publishers who are self-published. Wherever you get your music, go to your dealers as well. My publisher just set up a deal with Pepper, so I know that Pepper's doing this stuff. So all my stuff, you can either go to my website, frankticheli.com, or the Manhattan Beach, or you can go to Pepper, just wherever you want to go to get it. There is a single central place where you can go and research this music, and that is windrepertory.org. And who are those gentlemen again, Robert? The gentlemen who run that?
It's Nick Pilato and Dave Strickler, and it's Frank. It's just windrep.org.
That's right.
Into the chat.
Thank you for that correction. Windrep.org. Yeah.
Creative Repertoire Initiative, which has its own page.
Right.
Chat for you.
Right. So you go to windrep.org, and then did you type it into the chat there?
I did.
Okay. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
I'm looking. Oh, there it is. Yeah. And then Creative Repertoire Initiative. Absolutely. So you can see all kinds of different adaptable pieces at that place. It's like a central database where you can look at stuff. And I think you can search by grade as well, right, Robert?
Right now, it's just by composer.
Okay.
But,
which is great by composer. Yeah, I love that.
It's not just CRI composers. It's anyone who's writing adaptable music. They're looking at the webpage almost, or the Facebook group daily. And as soon as someone posts, they put it into the folks at winrep.org, toss it into their catalog. So.
You know, while I've got Robert here, I want to say one other thing we have done in our role as advocates, which is Robert has given up a couple of his director's lounge sessions. 2 of them. We did them in June. I think, were they both in June? Was the second one early July?
Early July.
Yeah. And basically, we let composers from all over the place, I think we had about 10 or 12 on each of them. They just were able to share their music and talk about their music and talk about what they're doing. And so it was wonderful because there were a lot of people there, and we were able to provide this showcase for those composers, many of whom are not well known. And so this allowed them to show what they're doing to a large audience. So it was really wonderful to do that as well. So thank you for that, Robert.
You bet.
We're also partnering with WASB. That's not been fleshed out completely, but we have something coming up with WASB where we're going to be doing a partnership with them, which also will, we think, encourage adaptable music as well. So that, and then these recordings that Robert's putting out, there is a possibility, can't say who or when, but there's a possibility if COVID will cooperate with us, that there will be video recordings made as well. We'll just have to wait and see on that. I think at this point, I would love to open it up to questions from you folks. And I would love it personally. I understand that many of you don't have your cameras on for a variety of reasons. Maybe you're eating your lunch. Maybe it's a bad hair day. Maybe you're in your car. I don't care. You're not going to offend me. I would much prefer that you turn your cameras on now so I could see your faces. It just makes me feel a little better. So if you could just do it for me, selfishly for me, I'm asking that. If you could just, thank you so much. I see you all doing it. I really appreciate that.
Your powers never cease, Frank Ticheli. You just got them to take the cameras. I can't believe it.
Yeah, well, it just makes it more like a community instead of me talking to a wall here. So yeah, it's a little bit like Hollywood Squares now, but it's better. It's not as good as being in person in the same room, but it's better. Thank you all so much. I guess if you have questions, you can just blurt out. You can unmute yourself and blurt them out, or so why don't we do it that way? Unless you have a hand raised thing, Danny, if you have that option as the whole.
No, yeah, we have that option, but yeah, just unmute and ask a question. I think that's the best way.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Hello,
or
Ralph.
if you're shy, put them in chat. Put your question.
Right, there's a question in the chat there from Eve Borg.
From Eve, okay. When you condense the music to 4 parts, does the melody move around the parts? Eve, where are you? That is such a great question. Eve, say something to me. Where are you, Eve?
Hi.
Hi, say hi again. It should bring you up. Say it again, Eve. Oh, there you are, Eve. Eve, that is a really great question because I get what you're saying. The 4 parts, is it only the first part that has all the fun, right? And my answer to your question is yes, the melody gets moved around because just like in my music, I may have the melody in an upper red, then I may have the melody somewhere else. And so I tried to reflect that in my full flex arrangement. So the melody is not just in part 1, but it also gets put in part 2 and occasionally in part 3. Now I will admit it's much more rare that it is in part 4 because that really is serving as kind of an accompaniment part. But every now and then it does show up even in part 4. But it's mostly in parts 1, 2, and then to a lesser extent, part 3, just to let everybody have fun. It's like, who gets to have the melody? You know, it's just like good counterpoint. When you're writing good counterpoint, think about Bach counterpoint, or even any counterpoint. It's all about this kind of thing happening, invertible counterpoint. So I allowed that to happen. Great question, Eve. And Ralph says that covers what I was going to ask. So somebody else, questions about this. Let me ask you a question as you're thinking. And Dan, you can answer this. Who am I talking to here? Are these your students or are these people out in the field? Are these Arkansas people only? Who am I speaking to here?
The answer to those 3 questions you asked is yes.
Great. They're your students.
It is all the above. We have a great many Arkansas band directors. There's Florida band directors. There's Kentucky band directors. I see Texas band directors,
Cool.
several of our current students, some of our recent alums, some of our less recent alums. That's who we have here. I don't have necessarily a question as much as a statement. I'll tell you, I think this is, I mean, I want to be, you know, very late to the party and just saying thank you, Frank and Robert and everybody else in here for thinking of this brilliant idea that's so timely right now. And, you know, as we are bounding toward the start of school, whatever that's going to look like, this is going to be crucial to us. And I think it's exciting to think about how it will live post-coronavirus world as well. You know,
sir.
that it doesn't have a short shelf life. The potentials for these in chamber music settings, in music education settings, and outside of music education settings are fascinating.
You're absolutely right. And that's something I say to composers who are on the fence, like, do I have to, I'm going to do all this work for something that's only going to be for a year or so while bands are in this crisis. And I remind them, no, this can be useful well after this pandemic is over with, because there are small band programs everywhere who can use this music. There are university conducting classes everywhere, whether you got the weird instrumentation in a university conducting course, they can use this music. So it has usage. And especially the small band programs. They're going to be plenty, they're going to be more, I hate to say this, but I'm expecting there are going to be more small band programs after this COVID for a while, because it's going to take a few years for some programs, some music education programs to recover from this. There's going to be that sort of lost mini generation that has to be replaced again.
I'm afraid that's true. I am interested. Robert, you can hop in here as you're seeing what's happening at Georgia State. Interestingly, from some of my circle of friends, we at Arkansas Tech, we're looking at the biggest enrollment we've ever had next fall. And it seems really counterintuitive. Yeah. Obviously, my theory is that the bubble is in non-majors. And I wonder if a lot of high school seniors last year lost the closure and the end of their year and are going to do college band when some of them wouldn't. They might have had the closure at the end of their high school career and said, now, you know, I'm done. I don't need to do as is normal. But we're seeing the largest enrollment we've ever, and I wonder nationally if that'll be a thing. If the lack of the experience at the end of their high school career will have an unanticipated positive effect in the short term, even though what you're saying long term is I think unfortunately going to be right on. Yeah. But this will, I think, will not only be, it'll be absolutely effective for those small groups, small programs like you're saying, but I'm imagining just the trumpet sections in large band programs being able to use this rep in some of the same ways that we use the Mayu Lake Baccarals. Yeah. That, you know, the clarinet choir can just play number 12 and play all the parts.
Yes, sir. You're absolutely right, because in a way, with the full flex, I just created a bunch of quartets. You've got your flute oboe quartet, you got your clarinet quartet, you got trumpet quartet, I've kind of done that. And so you're absolutely right. It sort of does that.
Yeah, in both clefs and every key. It's brilliant.
Yeah. It's interesting what you say about the increased enrollment, though. But yeah, you were going to say something. Yeah.
I was just going to ask a question. As I saw the first piece you put up, it is going to be much like a choral piece where everyone sees all parts at the same time. And it's up to either the director or you're leaving it up to the performers to pick and choose.
That's right, except that I didn't provide parts in 4 parts because of the page turn problems.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Okay,
they don't rest it up.
Just one stave.
So I had to, God, it's a lot of work. You got to make every one of those parts. So now the director can say, okay, trumpet, you get part 1. You trumpet, you're going to get part 2. Sax, why don't you take also part 1? Oboe, you take the part 2 here. The directors can mess around with this. The cool thing about this, though, the conductor could have fun on a given page, could say, you know what, today, let's let tubas play part one. Tubas get the melody all the time, or most all the time. Flutes, you're going to get part four. You're going to get the quote unquote bass line, which is just another part, because I constructed it in a way that that invertible thing would work. So you could have kind of, and the tubas will love that if you do that on a given day. So that flexibility can open the door to some kind of fun experiments. This is the best thing that's come out of CRI for me, is the imaginative approaches to it. We've got everything from, you know, Mike Doherty just did a setting of This Land Is Your Land, right? Dedicated to Guthrie, Woody Guthrie. And it's a really cool setting of it too. I mean, and it sounds like Mike Doherty. It sounds exactly like Mike Doherty. Eric Whitaker is doing a flex version of his recent choral piece, Gently, what's it called? Sing Gently, which was just done. It was his latest. How many of you know about his latest virtual choir? It's Virtual Choir 6. 17,527 or something. It was more than 17,500 singers worldwide did that. And it was just featured on my favorite program on all of network TV, CBS Sunday Morning. I'm sure, I hope all of you know that program. It's the best thing on network TV. I mean, just hearing the theme song played by Wynton Marsalis every week, that alone makes it the best show on TV to me, right there, without even looking at the show. Anyway, they featured Eric Whitaker this past Sunday. So Eric is like he's a rock star this week. Eric is always a rock star, but he's especially a rock star this week, being on CBS Sunday Morning. And Brian Balmages is doing some really cool things as well. Julie Giroux is doing it. She hates doing it. I have to admit, we all dislike doing it. It's not as fun as having that wonderful palette of all those colors to choose from and play with. It's about compromise. We are making this compromise because it's necessary to do it right now. But Julie's doing it as well. Everyone, all the members, as I said, are doing something. And so we wouldn't have had this wide range of approaches to this had we not founded this little initiative, CRI. I mean, that's for me, one of the best things that's come out of it. It is what we thought of as flex has now become, I'm doing my whole entire Hollywood Square here, has become that, and maybe even more. It's doing that. It's outside my box now. And I love that that's happened. It's really exciting.
Yeah, well, you're speaking about, you know, one of the ways we're going to have to continue to try to find silver linings in this terrible, terrible situation.
Absolutely.
You know, the lack of opportunity to engage in some of the things that we normally engage as band conductors in the fall semester is going to inadvertently open the door to do a lot of things that have the potential to be terrific. That's you know, right. At Arkansas Tech, we're exploring the potential of playing orchestral excerpts with the brass choirs and woodwind and percussion, because we may be only able to put 10 to 25 people in a room. In my wind ensemble setting, that we don't have an orchestra at Arkansas Tech. So those students don't have the opportunity to play the brass repertoire from the orchestral world. And we also usually have a performance pending, looming. We have to have a polished product ready, and we won't necessarily this fall. So there's a liberating aspect to that, and a freedom to be able to just roll our sleeves up and provide experiences and teach. That I think the lack of the competitive marching band thing across the country may open some doors for that. And I hope that there will be more examples like you described. Let's play the dance for a week. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know what? 4, 2, 3, 1.
Yes.
This week. And
yes.
on Wednesday, 1, 3, 2, 4. And put on the screen behind the conductor the 4 staves, if they can't see them individually. But you know, we've got these Prometheus boards and these smart boards and these projectors, and and explore as many ways to make this engaging, although it's outside, you know, what we trained for and what we normally perceive and define as what we do.
Yes, but that attitude that you were expressing is exactly the kind of attitude we have to have. We have to think of this as an opportunity, a chance to think outside our usual box, rather than a year that is a fallow kind of year. We have to think of it as a chance to open up doors that we wouldn't have opened up otherwise. That's the only way to get through this.
Right.
And all of you have to just remember that you're not alone, that there are people, there's a whole network of professionals out there who have your backs, who are thinking about you. It's not just CRI, but it's far, far wider than CRI. We're just a small part of it. And just don't forget that. There are people out there that are thinking about you and thinking of ways to help us get through all of this. I think that's a really important thing to remember.
Any other questions, everybody? Please don't be shy.
Yeah, just speak up.
I'm going to put Patty Tobar on the hot seat. I'm sure she's got a good question.
Yeah, you guys are shy. Yeah,
I
you're
can
lucky.
unmute you, Patty.
Yeah.
I can do it on my own now.
You're lucky if you can have 10 to 25, Dan. You're lucky in Arkansas. Well, it's because you're in California. At USC, we've shut down. There is going to be nothing. There's going to be no orchestra. There's not going to be even a duet. Nothing on our campus. It's all going to have to be virtual.
Well, Julia's here. Speaking of the hot seat, Julia, is there anything that you feel like you can share with us in that regard? Julia is the executive director of the Arkansas School Band Orchestra Association, Frank, and she's here. And I know that she's privy to the ongoing discussions and negotiations with the Activities Association about that very topic.
That's wonderful.
Let's see. Sure. Let me unmute you, Julia. Oh, it won't work. It will not. There she is.
There we go. I've had conversations today with the Department of Health and with the Activities Association. And then the superintendents had a meeting today, and they weren't supposed to share what they were told, but they texted some of their directors. And so it's kind of blown up this afternoon. But so I got two mixed messages today. One that it's been approved and you're going to start on X date, and another one that no, because we have a new director, it's going to have to go through another loop. So it depends on who you talk to, even with all of this. And I know the Department of Health is slammed. I can't even imagine. But Lance Taylor at AAA is in contact with the same person at the Department of Health that I am, and in the governor's office. So it's coming unless something drastic happens to the bad, but they have some guidelines and we're working on them when we go into the classroom. So first is going to start outside, I'll say that, and 6 feet apart.
Yeah, and Julia and Robert, am I incorrect? I believe the National Federation of High Schools has a maximum of 10 inside, 6 feet apart.
Are you referring to the Colorado study?
The recommendations from the NFHS?
I think it's based on size of space, 6 by 6 square with trombones 9 feet in front because of the spit valve.
Yeah, that's interesting because you hit it right on the head, because that's my understanding, but I've also, and I haven't scoured the document, but my understanding is from some people that it did say 6'6", 9 foot for the 7th position in the trombone, but also a recommendation of no more than 10 at a time in any indoor space.
And didn't the Colorado study recommend, or am I mixing this up, Robert, recommend slits in your face mask, then you cut a slit for the embouchure.
That's right.
You keep the mask on.
Yeah.
And the biggest issue is really it looks like you may be able to rehearse 20 minutes and then you have to let the room clear for 30, which makes it challenging.
Actually, was it 2030 or 3020? I
think it was 2030.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Jim Daughters is here. He and I today did some work on the order for the musicians' masks with room for the mouthpiece and bell and instrument covers for the whole program.
Right, and it's kind of a hosiery, right? Nylon covering for bells.
Same kind of fabric, right?
Yeah.
There's already some folks that are in the business world that are, you know, turning those into products that, you know, it's cute. You can get your school logo on them.
Yeah. I see a question for you, Ms. Reynolds. Can you tell us if instruments should also be masked outside?
Probably bell covers are going to be either strongly suggested or required, one of the two.
And with face masks on the players, is that what you're asking,
Yeah.
Christina? Should the players be masked as well?
Or, yeah, which one are you asking? The
She's probably
bells?
asking both. I don't know, but is it both?
Both.
Yeah.
Uh,
There you go.
one of the documents says that if they're actively playing outside, they do not have to have the face mask on. It should be like on the chin so they can pull it up. But then now that came out on the Colorado study about the slit in the face mask, they may go that way.
Yeah. I see a question for Dan, for Robert, actually. I don't know who said
Yeah,
it. Was it
yeah.
you,
What
Dan?
did you mean 20/30 or 30/20? What I meant, Chris, is the recommendation, as I understood it, was that we are to rehearse for 30 minutes in any indoor space maximum, and then have a minimum of 20 minutes of that room unoccupied for the air to change out. Robert's understanding was that it was the opposite, that we could only rehearse for 20 minutes and then clear the space and then have it air out for 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if I can do this correctly because I can't quite see myself here, but I'm trying to move. So maybe I can do that. There I am. Let's see. Is this going to work at all? Yeah, there maybe. There's the mask with
Oh, yeah.
a mouthpiece with a nice logo for purchase. People are already making available, and then things like that for your instrument covers. So,
I mean, this underscores just how complex all of this is.
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm dealing with is just the music, trying to provide some music. But then you've got this whole other layer of things to think about. This issue of distancing and masks and scheduling and room space and and enough room space. This is a very complex.
yeah,
situation.
there's Tom's question. Doesn't that depend on the space size and air exchange rate? And
Yeah.
my understanding is no. That some of these, now we have to be really careful not to speak about the Colorado study in past tense. We have two reports. The study's 10 days into a 6-month process, as I understand it. You know, they're giving us bits of information as they go along, but this process is long from finished, much less in the review. Yeah, anybody that wants information, this is my friend Willie Perez in South Texas. His company is called TMF. He's presented at ABA and retired band director and music supervisor in Texas. And they're jumping on this information in order to make some products for us. Anybody wants some details? I love Willie, and I'm would be very happy to help.
Hey, Dan.
With him.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Dan, are those openings, are they going to have some type of a closure like Velcro, or is it going to be by design, the flap just closes, or what are they, do you know what they're planning to do with that?
Willie FedExed me 4 samples Saturday. They arrive at my house tomorrow.
Okay.
So I don't know. I would expect it's probably just material that folds over the top of itself. Yeah. But I don't know.
Too. Yeah.
But we're working to provide the tech band, each student with a mask, with a slit, and a protective cover for their instrument, along with their band T-shirt and a ball cap for the chance that we have to do anything. We won't be checking out uniforms this fall. We have no expectation that if there's football at Arkansas Tech, the band will be allowed to be there. So if you've seen my Facebook page or Jim Daughter's Facebook page, we're working on this national virtual marching band project that please get in touch with Jim. I think it's going to be huge. Jim and his friends around the country are creating percussion parts, color guard, choreography, drill, and Jim's writing the wind arrangements, and we'll give it to you. Like Frank said, I mean, people around the country ready to lock arms and help. if you're looking for a way to have an engaging activity this fall at zero cost, Jim's going to give you a marching band show. Then at worst, if we can't be together in human contact, a la Eric Ricker Virtual Choir, there's going to be a virtual marching band where, Jim, where are we right now? 6 or 7 high school bands that are on board with us from 2 or 3 different states?
We're at 15 now.
15.
With 4 different states, yeah, and a lot more jumping on board, depending, Julia, what comes from the state in terms of what we can and can't do. And there's a lot of flexibility. And, if we're only able to meet in groups of 10, then you can work on it in sections. You can work on it in full band. You can work on it at home. There's a lot of flexibility, just like Frank's stuff with the flex band and all that. It's meant to be flexible because we just don't know from week to week what environment we're going to be in.
Yep. And Jim is simultaneously writing parts that are appropriate for the university group and creating grade 2.5 versions of the parts.
And a grade 1.5, a grade 3, and the university charts. And they all fit on top of each other.
That's terrific, Jim.
Hey, Dan.
Yes.
They were asking about the masks. The ones that we looked at in Dardanelle have the flap that folds over itself. The best way that I can describe it, it's like the flap in the front of the tidy whities. Works basically the same way.
Got it.
So I think it's important as we're thinking about the fall, and it's really important. I think we have to multitask in our thinking and also keep our sights on the more distant future as well, because that also brings us hope. I draw a lot of hope by just knowing that in Japan, they're already planning their live concerts. They've already got it figured out because they're ahead of us on this. They flatten their curve in most parts of Asia. And now I'm hearing in Europe, they're also planning concerts of fairly normal instrumentation with a lot of restrictions, but they're planning it. So I just think it won't be long. We'll be doing the same. And I like to just keep my eyes on that prize as well. And it just gives me lots of hope because nothing's going to replace that, right? We have this short-term need, and we also have this not so far in the distant long-term need as well. And I just think or outcome that's coming. We're coming back to something that resembles our old reality. I think sooner than we might think. I just have a feeling it could be here by as early as next spring, next April, something like that. I'm hoping.
I mean, today the news from Oxford is really exciting.
I was really reassured by that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Fauci is being cautiously optimistic, his favorite term, that we're still looking at early 21. But those leaders in the Oxford study said this morning, their goal is still multi-million vaccines available before the end of 2020.
And I think the country's already pre-ordered, the US has pre-ordered 300 million doses of the vaccine.
Operation Warp Speed.
Yeah, so it'll be ready to go when it's ready to go. So I mean, it'll be great. We haven't done as good a job as Europe or Asia in getting our curve flattened, but if we can get that curve down, we could see some easing of the restrictions that we have right now. We just have to do the right. We've got to wear the masks and do it as a society. We've got to do a better job of getting the curve down. So, if that happens, we have a chance.
Yeah, there's lots of chat in the comment with links about the information and the materials we're talking about. And I put a link there if I can help in any more specific way. It's about 5. Any other questions? We get back to CRI here, the reason that Frank and Robert are with us today.
Yeah, any questions about music?
Sure, right. Yeah, get back to the heart of the matter. Steve James has his hand up. Here he is.
Yes, I have a question. So I teach string orchestra. Are there any resources that I might go look into for string orchestra?
None. No one cares about you at all.
Yeah, I know.
The answer is yes, indeed. In fact, I just finished Earth Song, my arrangement of Earth Song. It's a flex
Okay.
version. And I have it's a 5-voice flex. And I have all 5 string parts interspersed among those 5 voices. And if you go and look at the Hal Leonard and the Japanese flex pieces, most of them, I don't know if it's most, but many of them have the strings right there included with the winds in the flex parts. So you can find them there. I know that Brian Balmages is including them. I am backtracking and including them in my full flex pieces as well, because essentially they're already there. I've got treble instruments in C, bass instruments in C. I've almost got it set up for that. I just need to add a viola. I need to add an alto clef part, and then I've kind of got them all covered. So,
Yeah. Okay.
So you'll find them out there. That's
All
a
right.
great question.
Thanks.
Too.
Frank, I have a quick question. Is there any plans, this is for the band directors out there, any plans that you know of that to upload any of these to Smart Music in case there's a virtual, anything like that? Any future plans?
I think some are. I know that my publisher has a contract now with Smart Music, but it doesn't include these pieces yet. I mean, that may change. And so it's unfortunately, you're going to have to go, maybe you can go to Smart Music and find out which pieces are and which pieces aren't. I don't know. I haven't done that myself, that research. I just know that some of them are available on Smart Music and some of them are not. It's tricky. That contract with Smart Music it's not always to the publisher's benefit. And so some publishers are reticent to do anything with Smart Music. My method books, I don't know if you guys know, I have a method book called Making Music Matter, two sets of it for beginning and for intermediate. All of that stuff is on Smart Music. And that can be used also in a quasi-adaptable way because the parts are compressed into just a few staves. Not nearly as adaptable as my full flex adaptable stuff though. But that stuff's always Smart Music. I know that some people love Smart Music too. Some people don't.
Well, we're in the era of making the best of it, aren't we?
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
Whether or not we love certain circumstances. My studio colleagues don't love the idea of having a recital on, Zoom.
Yeah.
But we got to get some recitals done between now and 2021.
And so we look for those softwares that help us do that. I mean, there are a bunch of them out there, right? Everything from a cappella to any number of other possible tools that allow us to do virtual performing. Yeah.
Well, Frank, I cannot thank you enough for taking this time to come and spend with us, and more importantly, the whole initiative. And Robert, and please pass along to everyone else involved the gratitude of the band conductors in the state of Arkansas, and I'm sure across the country and throughout the world, because we need this right now. And as we discussed, it's going to be wonderful to have it forever, not just right now. So you've honored us by taking the time to come and be part of our little virtual session here today. And thank you for that.
You're very welcome. It does feel good to think that we might be helping a little bit. So thank you for those words. And I leave with just a reminder of the incredible memories I have of working with you, Dan. Not so long ago, right? When we had full bands and that incredible performance you gave of my symphony. I'll never forget that.
The score cover you signed for me is on my wall in one of my favorite, most prominent places, and that music is it's on the Mount Rushmore of repertoire and performances for me. And in case everyone wasn't aware, we all think of you as a Louisiana and a Texas guy. One of my favorite parts of your visits was learning that you lived in Hot Springs, Arkansas for a period.
First 5 years of my life, my dad had a cocktail lounge with slot machines. They had gambling back then, and it was in the late 50s, early 60s. So my first 5 years were in Hot Springs, Arkansas.
A lot of students of Hal Cooper here, and so they'll really smile, I'm sure, when they hear that. You told us that story at dinner, and then Dad, I think had to close that, and he opened an oyster bar.
He did. He closed it because they legalized gambling. They
Right.
decided only horse races.
Yep.
So he went out of business because the gambling was gone. It was a thriving business too before that. And he tried an oyster bar. Oysters in Arkansas just didn't quite do it. So
But
he just,
Mr. Cooper students will love that my memory of Mr. Cooper leaning forward and saying, which oyster bar? And he knew exactly the one it was.
my
Because
dad's
was that-
oyster bar. That makes me feel good.
Was the club Vapors?
It was in the Valderose Hotel, and it was called the Skyline Room. Are you
Yeah.
familiar with that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Amazing, really big star. Like Tony Bennett was there, and all these
Yeah.
Mitzi Gaynor. He's got photographs with all these celebrities that came in because it was kind of like Hot Springs was like a Las Vegas of the South during those years.
A lot of people like Tony Bennett tried out, Left My Heart in San Francisco. That's where he worked it up before he recorded it.
Well, can I tell you something? He sang it. He sang it in my dad's My dad had live music. He sang it there when he was there, and he asked my dad, the bartender. He asked, "Do you think this will do very well?" And my dad said, "Sir, if you record that, I would buy it." And my dad told that story, and I thought, "Oh, my dad's just putting some stuff on us, you know."
No,
Anyhow,
that was the truth.
This was years after my father died. My dad died young, and I was watching Johnny Carson, and Tony Bennett was on, and Johnny Carson asked him about that, and Tony Bennett said, "Well, you know, I was in a bar in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and I asked the bartender, and he said he would buy it. And so I thought, okay, I should record this." I started crying because I never acknowledged that my dad was telling the truth. I thought he was just doing a big fish story. So it almost brings tears to my eyes just to think about that now.
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we have 39 witnesses here. I'm saying, please put us on your dance card. I can't imagine if commissions are 10 years out. Let's do Hot Springs is the Las Vegas of the South piece, Frank. Please.
Okay, I'll put it on my.
If that's 2029, put us on the end of the dance card. Tell me what it's going to take. We'll get it done. We need we need Cajun folk songs a la Hot Springs, Las Vegas of the South. Let's make it happen.
All right, with a little oyster on the half shell. Okay.
Telling you.
We'll make that work. All right. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure meeting all of you. Good luck to all of you. Stay safe. Be well.
Thank you, Frank.
Hope to see you in person on the other side of this mess.
Absolutely. No question about it.
All right. Bye, everyone.